I always like to introduce myself again for those folks who do not know me. I am Shara Carruthers. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and Ayurvedic lifestyle and wellness consultant, and I work primarily with women who feel as though they have lost their mojo and they are looking to find it in a way that is natural, that is empowering, and that is individually them. And so that's the work that I do with people. And today, as I mentioned, I am going to be talking a little bit about springtime and the kinds of herbs and foods that you're going to want to try to incorporate into your diet. So very specifically, I want to talk about one that's a really powerful one that you may not be using or experiencing at the moment, and that you may not even have thought about as a food, because mostly we experience it as a weed in our gardens, in our back gardens, or in the sidewalk or something, and that is dandelions. So for most of us, dandelions have we've all had some experience with dandelions, whether that's blowing the dandelion seeds away, or whether that is trying to eradicate them from our gardens. But one thing that's really important for us to understand is that dandelions are an incredibly powerful herb and an incredibly powerful food. So when we think a little bit about springtime, right? We think about the qualities of spring. We are experiencing it cold or cool. So it's coming out of winter, so it's not quite as cold as winter, but it's going to be cool. It tends to be a little bit more damp. There's a heaviness to spring that we're usually trying to shift. And so we can experience that as colds and flus, allergies, congestion, maybe water retention. And so what we're wanting to try to incorporate into our diets during spring, in order to offset this cold and this heavy feeling, is some lightness. And so one of the best ways, and one of the easiest ways actually, that we can do this is by adding bitterness to our diet. If you think a little bit about a lot of medicines that you experience, they typically are bitter. They've got that bitter quality to them. And that's because the bitter quality is actually antiseptic. It's quite medicinal. It is in some ways very drying, which can be good when we're dealing with a lot of water and a lot of congestion. And so dandelions, if you've ever had any experience with eating dandelion greens perhaps, or even having dandelion root tea, you'll know that dandelions have this beautiful, dare I say, bitter quality to them. And so what that means really is that they're great for us during this time of year. But some of the other things that I want to point to about dandelions that you may or may not know is that they are a really powerful antioxidant. They can be really great for fighting inflammation, for helping control blood sugar, for reducing cholesterol. There's even some research that is looking at dandelion as a potential herb to help with things like weight loss and for healthy liver. And so dandelions are really great. And it's interesting to think that there's so much goodness kind of packed into such a simple package. But I'm here to tell you that dandelions are terrific for detoxification and all of the things that I mentioned before. And so it's really great to consider how you can incorporate a little bit of dandelion into your life this time of year. So my two favorite ways are, as I mentioned before, is eating the greens, and those can actually be quite bitter. However, if you've got dandelions in your garden and you want to harvest those greens to use, it's best to harvest them when they're young. Younger dandelion leaves tend to be a little bit sweeter than the older dandelion leaves. And so that's just a little tip for harvesting leaves. But also when you're harvesting dandelions, you're going to typically use the leaves, and you're also going to use the root. And so the best way to incorporate the root into your diet that I've found is dandelion root tea. So you can either harvest your own roots, or dandelion root tea is everywhere. In fact, here in Australia, we've got something that I only discovered maybe, 3 or 4 years ago. And it's the acronym for it is LSD, which is kind of funny, but it actually is a soy latte with dandelion. So it's like a dandelion coffee. And I highly recommend, because it's typically a mix of chicory and dandelion. Chicory is another bitter herb, which is great to add to your diet in the springtime. And so having a dandelion root tea or a dandelion coffee is a really great way to replace perhaps your caffeine, or perhaps instead of your, perhaps, alongside if you want to have dandelion sometime or caffeine sometime, because caffeine coffee is actually not so bad for kapha either. So those are two really good ways. You can put those greens into salads. You can put them into, they're quite delicate. So salad's actually one of the best ways to have them. So that is the herb that I wanted to talk to you about. If you hadn't thought about dandelions, grab some and try them out, either the leaves or try out some tea. In fact, I think I'm going to go upstairs after this and make myself a nice cup of dandelion root chai. The next thing I wanted to share just before I let you go, because I want to make this quick today, is just a couple of other superfoods, what we call superfoods. And by superfoods, what I really mean is that foods that are especially good, that have all the qualities that are especially good for this season. So the winner, hands down, for springtime is going to be leafy greens. Leafy greens have a lightness to them. They've got that lovely bitterness to them. Some of the leafy greens, even if you've ever tried something like arugula or even dandelion or even some beet greens, they've got that lovely pepperiness to them, which is really nice. So that has a kind of even though greens are cooling, that's kind of has a little bit of a warming quality. So leafy greens are going to be the absolute best. If you're not already craving leafy greens this time of year, I would recommend heading to your farmer's market and do not pass that leafy greens booth. We've got a couple of different booths in our local farmer's market that sell primarily salad leaves and herbal leaves and things like that. So definitely every time you're heading out to the supermarket or to the farmer's market, pick up some lovely leafy greens and experiment, because they are all really, really great. The other ones that I would recommend, and which I recommend for a lot of seasons, but ginger is great. So if you haven't started figuring out how to incorporate ginger into your diet, please do. You will be so beautifully surprised at how versatile ginger is. And in Ayurveda, we call ginger the universal medicine, and that's for good reason, because it is good for everything, and it's especially good. It's good in all seasons, in moderation in the summertime because it's a little bit hot, a little bit spicy. But in the springtime, it is perfect to put in your teas, your cakes, your stir fries, your everything. So definitely that's going to be a superfood for spring. And then the other thing that I would actually say, which is kind of one of my favorites, is asparagus. Asparagus is a really nice, packed full of nutrients, beautiful, lots of different ways. It's versatile, lots of different ways that you can cook with it and eat it. I hope you like asparagus. Maybe there are some people out there who don't. But if you can figure out a way of incorporating that into your diet, and I'll see if I can find a lovely recipe to share with y'all with some of these things that I'm talking about in them. So that's all I've got to say about spring tonic herbs and foods. I hope that you are eating mindfully and that you are looking to incorporate some of these incredibly healthy and health supporting foods into your diet this time of year. If you've got any questions about any of this, go ahead and pop them into the comments, and I will answer them as we go. If you haven't joined my Facebook group, please do. We would love to have you over there. We do a lot of talking about a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of terrific support there. And lastly, I'm super excited to announce that tomorrow, here, at least here in Australia, I guess it'll be tomorrow everywhere, a series that I put together for Food Matters TV. They are considered the Netflix of health and wellness. They've got thousands of videos and documentaries and courses and series on various health-related issues. I have worked with them to put together a beautiful series on Ayurvedic cooking called Eat Like You Love Yourself, which is based on my book. Hopefully you've got the book. If you haven't, go out and get it. It's called Eat Like You Love Yourself. It's 6 episodes, and we talk about all the seasons. We talk about Ayurvedic eating, what it is. We talk about detoxing and how you cook for that. And we talk about what it means to eat like you love yourself. We, meaning me. That series that launches tomorrow. And I'm super excited about it, and I just wanted to let you know, and I will put a link in the comments for anybody who wants to go and check that out. You have to, I think you've got to be a member of Food Matters, but if you're not, they've got a 10-day trial, and that's a way of checking it all out. And I'm telling you, once you join it, you probably won't want to stop because it's full of really great information available all around the world. So I'll just repeat, if you've got questions, you can pop those in. I'll check them out and get them answered. Otherwise, I will see you next week. Thank you very, very much, and be well. Namaste.